Final presentation by Jimmy Love for Lindenwood University. Curriculum and Instruction, Design and Assessment. Dr. Kristen Levin, Professor. EDA 78700. Objectives. Briefly summarize the needs you have identified and the goals you created for the project. Walk us through the reform or strategy that you implemented. Compare the onset and outcome evidence and conclude them. Discuss connections to your professional work. What were the major lessons learned? How will they impact your work in the future? In what ways will you use the conclusions you have drawn to refine your dissertation study? The curriculum conundrum. The problem is, a recent review of the Normandy School Collaborative data indicated that students need to make more progress in reading comprehension. Students failed to make adequate progress in critical reading areas, including vocabulary, reading comprehension, literature, and information text. The need. After identifying the problem areas, the scholar practitioner assessed the needs. The scholar practitioner discussed the issue with stakeholders, and reviewed the literature on reading comprehension strategies. The scholar practitioner discovered that vocabulary skills are associated with reading comprehension, highlighting vocabulary as the most critical concern. The scholar practitioner ideated intervention strategies and pitched strategies to stakeholders for feedback. The scholar practitioner developed a SMART goal based on feedback to address students' deficiency in iReady diagnostic vocabulary outcomes. The scholar practitioner developed an acronym for the vocabulary intervention, HASVIP, Home and School Vocabulary Improvement Practice. HASVIP vocabulary words were selected from the literature on academic words for 8th grade students. Although the recommended list of words is 97, the scholar practitioner selected 30 words from the list for the study. The literature stressed a relationship between parental involvement and student achievement. The scholar practitioner's intervention entailed the parental engagement component to increase outcomes potentially. Implementation. Implementation felt official. The scholar practitioner began by selecting 7 students for the study. The students were selected according to iReady diagnostic vocabulary scores. After providing the participants with an overview of the HASVIP vocabulary intervention, the scholar practitioner administered a HASVIP pretest. Although 2 students performed better on the defining words section of the test, students scored at most 36%. The pretest outcomes were consistent with iReady diagnostic scores. The scholar practitioner was eager to implement a SMART goal to help students improve the pretest scores. 3 weeks of HASVIP implementation. During the 3 weeks of this study, students completed daily HASVIP activity sheets. Daily HASVIPs were scored on a simple 2-point system. If students returned a completed HASVIP without a signature, they earned 1 point. If they returned the HASVIP with a signature, they earned 2 points. The scholar practitioner noticed that the majority of the participants submitted daily HASVIP sheets. Although the parents' signatures suggested that parents were aware of the assignments, several students made mistakes on the sheets that were signed. Student participation and parental signatures were established as a critical objective of the intervention. The scholar practitioner noted successful student participation. Participation was consistently 80% and above. DPJ and only turned in 60% of the HASVIPs in week 3. However, the low turn-in rate was due to a 2-day suspension. According to the literature, parental involvement is a critical component for student achievement. The scholar practitioner noted that only one student's HASVIP was signed 100% of the time. This suggested that some parents were not engaging as consistently as expected. The scholar practitioner implemented the HASVIP for 3 weeks, collecting data to indicate students' participation and parents' involvement. After 3 weeks of feedback and data collection, the scholar practitioner administered a HASVIP post-test. The scholar practitioner collected data to analyze how long students took to complete each assessment section. The scholar practitioner wanted to triangulate data to conclude and believed the length of the time students used to complete the test was a telling factor. Although 30 minutes were designated to allow for completion of each section, most students did not use the full time as allotted. ORB was the only student who carefully read through and completed both sections of the pre and post test. The scholar practitioner believed that the short test taking time suggested students were not familiar with the words, or students were very familiar and did not need the time. The reality was students rushed through without carefully reading, according to the observations. Growth data. The scholar practitioner did not achieve the SMART goal of 80% mastery. Achieving 80% mastery requires students to define 24 of the 30 academic words accurately. However, the scholar practitioner noted that all but one student made gains on both sections of the post-assessment. DPJ, ORB, and JYW made noticeable gains. The scholar practitioner considered reassessing a student who dropped from 30% to 23% in Section 1. However, time did not permit for a retest. The scholar practitioner also believed retesting the student would compromise the accuracy of the outcome data. Although the SMART goal was not fully achieved, the scholar practitioner noted several positive outcomes of the 3-week intervention. Students took the work seriously, returning the HASVIP tracking sheets daily. Parents participated and monitored the students' progress. Students improved their vocabulary skills. Although all parents participated, participation did not equate to accurate answers on the daily HASVIP trackers. Lessons learned. Vocabulary skills are connected to students' achievement across the curriculum, especially in reading. Normandy Schools Collaborative uses iReady Diagnostic to assess and remediate students. iReady is administered quarterly, and the next test occurs after winter break. However, the scholar practitioner believes the HASVIP strategy can contribute to students' academic growth. If teachers preview curriculum and identify words students need to know, they can use the HASVIP prototype to help students increase their vocabulary skills. The scholar practitioner insists consistent HASVIP activity feedback to students and parents is essential for the strategy to impact academic achievement positively. Additionally, the HASVIP intervention allows students to increase their skills outside of school, preventing hindrances and frustration resulting from unfamiliarity with academic words. The learnings from this study were vast and can contribute to teaching and learning in the future. The scholar practitioner implemented a strategy that was specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. The scholar practitioner noted gains in 7 of 7 participants. This suggests future attempts to improve reading skills entail daily, home, and school interventions to address root causes of deficiencies in academic vocabulary, comprehension, identification, and usage. This brief investigation gave me insight into what the grand dissertation study will entail. The needs assessment team and stakeholder feedback challenged me to engage staff with valuable insights and experience. Design thinking is a collaborative process. This assignment allowed me, the scholar practitioner, to practice pitching ideas and soliciting stakeholder feedback. Furthermore, implementing the SMART goal was an exciting process. The scholar practitioner, myself, felt empowered to make a change through implementing an intervention targeting documented weaknesses. Essentially, the scholar practitioner plans to do that with the problem of practice. This project felt like the real thing. The scholar practitioner reviewed the literature on the intuited weaknesses and engaged stakeholders in solutions. After specifying goals, the scholar practitioner developed supporting documents and resources. The scholar practitioner reflected on qualitative and quantitative data and analyzed the data to assess the efficacy of the intervention. Given more time, the scholar practitioner would have made modifications to the prototype. For instance, parents should have been contacted when students needed or had parental signatures with poor outcomes. That's when students needed assistance or had signed parental forms, but the data was not. In other words, you had a form that was signed, but the work was still incorrect. So those parents, per a modified prototype, would have been contacted immediately, or at least within that day, so they could support on the other end, being that parental engagement on the home front is very, very important according to the literature. Such an intervention could have significantly improved post-test performance and subsequent growth. The problem of practice study on college and career readiness for 8th grade students in 3 months. So that would allow a lot more time for modifications and adjustments. Modifications and adjustments are actually a part of the design thinking process, an iterative, non-linear process. Ultimately, this short study on the impact of vocabulary practice and parental involvement on vocabulary skills boosted the scholar practitioner's confidence, convincing me that I can develop and implement an intervention that leads to organizational change. Thank you. Thank you.